Hi everyone, this is Brian Suh here. Thanks for joining today's webinar where we'll be talking about Desk Connect and how to synchronize your data between Desk and Salesforce. My name is Brian Suh. I'm the onboarding and training specialist here at Desk, and it's my job to create content for new customers, such as webinars, articles, just to help customers to learn how to set up Desk better. So a few housekeeping items before we begin. Today's training session will last just about 20 to 25 minutes. And during that training, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the GoToWebinar questions panel, and we'll get those answered towards the end. And again, we will save some time at the end for Q&A. Also, the webinar today is being recorded, so if you can't stay with us for the entire time, then we will email out the recording to you guys. Also, if you wanted to maybe watch the video side by side as you set up Desk Connect on your own, the recording again will be sent out. In total, today's webinar should last just about 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and begin. So let's first begin by talking about what is Desk Connect and why is it so great for the Desk Connect Salesforce integration. Well, Desk Connect is the full bidirectional sync between Desk and Salesforce. Now, by default, out of the box, Desk Connect is going to sync with the three main CRM objects between Desk and Salesforce. And that means the case, the contact, and the account. Now, we did have an old integration with Salesforce that where we used the custom case object in Salesforce, but now we use Desk Connect, and with that, it's the standard case object in Salesforce. Now, it is complete out of the box, so you can take care of all those canned reports that are that you're used to running in Salesforce. Now, we don't only sync the case, contact, and account objects, but we also sync interactions on a case as well. So, for example, if you're reaching out to your customers and your customers are reaching out to you, those interactions are being captured in Desk. And now we push those interactions to the case in Salesforce. So now anyone looking at a case in Salesforce is going to be able to see all the complete customer history and all the interactions you've had with the customer. Now, that's great, but why is this important and why do we even want to connect sales and service? Well, there's a couple of main points, and it's really about achieving that 360-degree view of a customer. It's about having a complete view from the customer history to all the interactions that the customers had, to even information about a sales opportunity that you've had. So from a sales perspective, we know that your sales team is going to be more effective if they have access to customer service cases. And that's really one of the main features of Desk Connect, being able to connect your sales team that's living in Salesforce and customer service team that's living in Desk. So for example, your customer service team is creating cases in Desk and syncing cases into Salesforce. And now when your sales team is looking at an opportunity, they're looking at, let's say, contact. Now they're able to see all the customer service history from that contact. So they're able to now go into a sales deal and say, hey, I know you've had 7 open cases with us and we saw the last 4 and the last 3 are in development. And ultimately, this is going to help your customers to be happier, and it's going to make your customers trust you more as a company and brand. It's going to make your sales team ultimately more effective also. Now, on the flip side, we know that your service team is going to have a better experience with the customer if they do have some sales data coming in. So let's say the salesperson can write a note or an internal case comment in Salesforce saying, hey, I talked to the customer about this during during the sales cycle, and they're actually a little bit unhappy about this one thing. So just to let you know before you reach out to customer. So again, ultimately, it's about having that 360-degree view of the customer. So let's talk about a few things that are needed to enable this amazing feature. So the first thing that's needed is that you need to be a Salesforce customer and have a Salesforce Professional Edition or above. Next, in Salesforce, we want to make sure that the case priority pick list values have been added, and that's high, medium, and low. And we will review this during the actual walkthrough portion of the webinar. The other field in Salesforce that we're going to check is the case status. As a Salesforce system administrator, we need to go into setup and make sure that the case priority and the case status have the correct values. For case status, that's going to be new, open, pending, resolved, and close. Then on the desk side, we want to make sure that you're a desk professional plan or above as well, in addition to being a Salesforce professional plan or above. Next is object mapping. Remember that the three standard objects that we map are case, contact, and account. In Desk, we call Salesforce contacts customers. So any customer records that are created in the Desk application using Desk Connect, these will get synced over as your Salesforce contacts. In Desk, we call Salesforce accounts companies. So when you create a company in Desk, those get synced over to your Salesforce, over to Salesforce as accounts. And for contacts, we actually use the email address as the unique identifier, and also the phone number to match the contact record in Salesforce. And lastly, for the account, we just use the exact account name to match. Next, let's talk about Desk cases to Salesforce cases. Now, we're able to create these and have them under the correct account and contact in Salesforce by editing the layout. So we want to make sure in Salesforce that your standard case object is in fact visible with your contact and account layouts. So if you're using some type of install package integration, which we do offer, you'll notice that these cases are going to a custom object called Desk.com cases. Now using Desk Connect, what we do is sync to the native case object that comes with Salesforce. That way you as an administrator can run better reporting in Salesforce and even create dashboards. So next, let's talk about things to consider post-enablement of Desk Connect. When we enable Desk Connect, only new cases, customers, and company records that are created or edited in either system will sync. So if you have any historical data, then all you need to do is, as an agent or an admin, you can initiate a bulk update. So you don't necessarily have to change the status or any fields, but once you open the case and edit, the system will be able to sync the case over to Salesforce. One more thing to note about the standard case object is that the cases get synced over the native case object. So within the related list in Salesforce, you want to make sure that this case object is in fact visible. So if you're not seeing this, then you'll need to contact whoever is the Salesforce admin and edit that layout. Now for syncing time. Whenever you make any edits from Desk.com or create a case or customer, these updates will instantly get synced over to Salesforce. When making changes on the Salesforce side, it does take up to 5 minutes to appear in Desk. Next here, field mapping. What's great about Desk Connect is that we don't only give the ability to bidirectionally sync information, but on top of that, you can also map fields. If you have custom fields created in Salesforce, you have the ability to map these over to Desk, so your Desk agents have the ability to see that information. Here are the standard field mappings per object. So when we enable Desk Connect for cases, we'll be able to map the status, priority, subject, and description without any additional setup. Now for contacts, it'll be the name, title, phone, and email. And for count, it's the account name. Now these are the standard fields that will get automatically mapped once we enable Desk Connect. If you do want to map over your custom fields, here are the 4 data types that we have the ability to sync with. And that's going to be text, pick list, checkbox, and date. Our next point here is that case numbers are not synced by default. So the Desk case numbers are different from Salesforce case numbers. So in order for your Salesforce representative to be able to log in quickly and see which Desk case is associated with the corresponding Salesforce case, we can achieve this through a custom field mapping. And if you are interested in getting more information on creating this workflow, you can also always reach out to our support team, and we can actually walk you through that. We actually have an article on our support site that also explains this workflow. And our last point here is that the Desk Connect integration does not count against the Salesforce API limit. So for those of you administrators that are always conscious about your API limits that comes with your plan, luckily with Desk Connect, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so with that, let's actually go into a walkthrough of the setup here. So I'll hop over to Desk. And so I'm in my admin console in Desk. And what we'll actually do is go to our gear icon here, which is for your settings. And my Desk Connect has been enabled, so it'll look slightly different, but yours, you won't see the majority of this information, but you will see this on and off toggle. Now, if you're not seeing this on and off toggle, then what you actually need to do is you can email the support team, support@desk.com, and they can actually enable Desk Connect for you. Once they do that, they'll send you an email letting you know that it has been enabled, and then you can go ahead and flip this on. One thing to note is that when you actually do enable Desk Connect, you want to make sure that you log in with the user with the highest level of permission. So whoever is actually going to walk through enable Desk Connect, make sure that they have the highest level of permissions, which is oftentimes the billing administrator. So once you do turn it on, toggle it on, it will count down, and it could take up to a couple minutes to actually enable. But once that is complete, you can come back and you will now see these tabs and some additional Desk Connect setting areas here. So, excuse me. So one thing that you want to do is we want to look at these three tabs, the company, customer, and case, and you want to look at the interactions. So what you're essentially saying is that for your companies that are accounts in Salesforce, you want to say that the Salesforce to Desk Sync, you want to turn that on. The Desk to Salesforce you want to turn on. And then you're going to do the same for the customer. Again, turning on the Salesforce to Desk and Desk to Salesforce. And lastly, for cases as well. Now, what we actually often see is that sometimes customers will choose to leave the company and customer as off. That is optional. But for the cases tab, we definitely recommend that you turn both of these on so that those case interactions are being synced back and forth. Now, once you do turn those on, you can go ahead and save those settings, and I'll give it a quick save here. Now what we'll do is hop over to the Salesforce side. And once again, I'm logged in as an administrator. From here, we'll actually go to Setup. And then what we want to do is we want to search for cases. So you can do that a couple different ways. You can find it under Build and Customize here. And you can find cases down here. But what I often like to just do is go ahead and just use a search here. And here we are. So now that we're in cases, we're going to actually click in the fields. So the first thing that we're going to search for is priority. So we can scroll down just a little bit, and then we'll see our priority and status here. So let's first click into priority. And we mentioned earlier that you want to make sure that the pick list values for priority are high, medium, and low. And I'll show you on the Desk side how the values actually sync over. The next thing that we want to do is I'll click back here, and then we'll go to our status. Again, we're under cases and fields, but status here. And here we want to make sure that the values are new, open, pending, and resolved, and closed as well. And they are here. And then you can also always make sure that the default value for new is selected as well as closed here. Now for page layout. So we want to edit those layouts. So a really simple way, and again, you can choose to find it over here through the navigation bar. What I like to do is actually go just to contacts here, and I'll actually click into a contact. And then at the upper right-hand corner here, you have your edit layout, just a really fast way to get there. So once we do get there, what we want to do is go to the related list in this edit layout, and I'll take us down here. And I've already added my cases section here, but if it's not there, how it'll show up here is in your related list, you'll actually see it as a gray box here. And then once you go ahead and just click and drag it over, it'll be added. And now your cases will actually be kind of hazed out to show that it's in your list here. And then from here, you can go ahead and drag it, reorder it as so. And then we can go ahead and give it a quick save. And now what we want to do is the same for the accounts. And again, you can do it through setup, but what I like to do is just go to the accounts tab. We'll actually hop into an account here. And then once again, really quickly, just go to edit layout. And once again, we'll actually just go to the related list here. And then we'll do the same thing. You'll see that mine's already added here, and we'll know that it's been added because it's been hazed out here. But again, we can go ahead and just drag it back and forth into the list. We can move it to change the order, and then we can go ahead and give it a quick save as so. All right, so that's actually all that we need to take care of on the Salesforce side. We're going to go ahead and hop back over to the desk admin here. And again, the way that I got here was I'm in the admin console. I click the gear icon to get to settings, and then I'm in disconnect. So the next thing we're going to talk about here are the field mappings, and we'll find the field mappings under the disconnect area here. And you'll notice here that we do once again have the three tabs, the customer, the company, customer, and case. And we can decide, the field map relationship. Now there's two type of field mappings here. We have mappable fields, which means that you can configure the mapping between Salesforce and desk fields. And then if you scroll down, every section will also have non-configurable fields. Now we talked about that some of the fields will automatically be mapped without any additional setup. So these are the ones that we're talking about. So this is the information that is automatically mapped, and you'll see that if we go into the customer, we'll have the same setup here. We'll have the mappable fields here as well as the non-configurable fields. Okay. Now what we want to actually do is take a look at the case. So here, when we go to the non-configurable fields in the case area, we talked about the status and priority. And again, so the status, we're linking the Salesforce field of new to the desk field of new, and we can see that the rest have been set up automatically. Also, the priority, I do want to talk about this just a little bit because you'll notice that the Salesforce priorities rank in high, medium, and low, but the desk priorities actually are on a number scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high critical. So the way that we actually handle that is the high value is just 10. So if you have a value of 10 in desk, that'll automatically map to high in Salesforce. For medium, any values that are 5 to 9 in desk will automatically map over as medium. And then for low, any values of 1 to 4 will automatically map to the field, the value of low in Salesforce. All right, and so with that, we can go ahead and make sure that all of those are set properly. And then once again, if you do have any custom fields, you can manually map the Salesforce fields to the desk fields. So we'll go ahead and give it a quick save. Now, one thing I do quickly want to talk about, and this is a question that we get pretty often, is, let's say I don't want all my case interactions to map automatically. Let's say I want the ability to choose which case interactions actually get mapped over. So we can actually achieve this through a custom field mapping. So an agent would have to actually toggle a field from yes to no in order for a case to be synced. So what we'll actually do is first create a custom field. So while I'm in my admin, I'm going to go ahead and go to cases. And then I'll once again go to cases here. And then I'll go to custom fields. So we can add a custom field here by clicking the Add Field button here. I've already set up one called Sync to Salesforce, so let's actually just go ahead and take a look at it. So what I did was first name my custom field to sync to Salesforce, and you can actually name it whatever you'd like, but something that just indicates that, syncing to Salesforce or Desk Connect or whatever they might be. And then the key will automatically populate, usually to whatever the name is minus any spaces. So we replace that with underscores. And then the data type that we want to use is going to be list. Again, there are different options for this, but we recommend list just so that you can have a yes or no option. So the way that we go ahead and add the yes, no options here are very simple. We just click the plus icon. We can type in yes or whatnot here. And so I added my two values and I set my default value to be the top value, which is no. So that's what's going to automatically default to you on every case in your case interactions. And let's just go ahead and update that. So once we do that, now we can go to Desk Connect here. And then what we'll actually do is we'll go to the field mappings. Oh, actually, let's go to Desk Connect first here. And what we've done here is, now what we've done is we're deciding which cases actually get synced over. So we're going to go to the Cases tab. And so we're determining, instead of an automatic sync between Salesforce and Desk on all case interactions, we're saying for Desk to Salesforce, we want there to be a conditional rule. So instead, we do want to leave it on, but we'll actually add a condition. So, and the condition is going to be when our custom field of sync to Salesforce is in fact yes, then and only then will the case sync from Desk to Salesforce. And what that looks like, and let me just go ahead and give a quick save. So what that looks like in Desk is if we go into a case here, we'll actually see a custom field here, and this is under case details. If you scroll down just a little bit, we'll see the selective sync option here. And again, our default value is going to be no, but then we can go ahead and select it to yes. And then only when we change this to yes, will this case actually sync over to Desk. All right, so that's the majority of the information that we wanted to share today.